It is saying good evening, good afternoon, good evening. We'll go with afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Um, well, here it is, the stream that I've been wanting to do for a long time, which is my second writing tip stream. I'm very nervous doing this one because I'm by myself this time, and I don't know how to feel about that one. I also think at most we'll be going an hour for this part of the stream. So how are you doing, War 2? I hope you're doing it well, everyone. Or else. I'm a violent person when I want to be. But let's go ahead and get to this. Why so small? Hold on a second. I shouldn't be so small. I know I'm a plushie, but ow, that hurt. That hurt a little bit. Tired. That's a mood. That is a big mood. That's all good. But let's see. I have an itinerary, but I mean, I kind of have an idea on what I want to cover. It's I'm bad at this. I'll just go ahead and say that now. But it's October. This time, this month, I was supposed to do this at the end of last month. Instead, I am over a week into the new month. I'm a little behind. But anyways, we are going to talk about character making. And do let me know if my stream starts to skip because Mira was having this problem, and now we're both streaming at the same time, and that will be a problem. We usually don't stream at the same time. This is new to us. But character making, because everyone needs to know how to make a character. I know a lot of people daydream, and shout out the Mira. She's streaming right now. She's streaming Lost Ark, but jeez, I got a cough. But character making. That's what we're here to talk about. Making a character. If you're writing a story, if you are playing D&D, even if you're daydreaming and just have this awesome idea for a character, you got to know the basics, I guess, is the best way to say it. All right. Now, when I'm talking basics, I'm thinking the very essence of your character. If you remove all of like the fluff of the character, when you boil it down and distill it, what is your character in essence? Can you boil it down to 3 words? That's kind of difficult. Even if you know your character. But can you sum up your character in like less than a paragraph? Well, mine, I was always told to do it in 1 sentence. Can you describe your character? And we can look at some prominent characters from media and go off of that, like Skywalker. I'm not going to try and distill Luke Skywalker into 1 sentence, but because it's been forever since I did Star Wars. Like, if you could Boil. Well, let's do a character that I do know. Randall Thor from the Wheel of Time. Can you boil Rand down to his purest, like in his purest form? It is well-intentioned extremist, and he's the protagonist. When you look at him, everything he does, he's being pulled by many sides, trying to fulfill a destiny that no one is clear on. So he's trying to make the best of what he has, trying to do what's right for the world, because he's also reading these prophecies of what he's supposed to do. So if he has to break a people to save them, he will. If he has to cut himself off from everyone that he knows and loves, he will. Everything he does is for the sake of fulfilling the grand scheme, the grand prophecy that only he and a few others even know what the hell he's talking about. Like, there are stories about what he's supposed to do, but no one ever seems to know exactly what he's supposed to do. It makes the best of a bad situation. That's Rand. And that's the only character I want to distill down into basics for now. Again, I don't have a full clue what I'm doing here. But when you are, let's say we're writing the protagonist for a story, right? First, you have to determine what kind of story you're writing. Are you writing an adventure story? Are you writing a coming-of-age story? Is it a fantasy? Are you writing a mystery? Sci-fi? What kind of story it is? Once you have that, it's just time to determine what your end journey is for this character. What do you plan to do? What is the final outcome? You don't have to know where the story is going right away, but what do you want to have your character accomplish? What do you want them to do? Are they going to fight the big bad? Are they going to realize something about themselves that wasn't apparent when they first began? Are they going to become a king, a rightful ruler? Are they going to solve a long-lost mystery? Or are they going to steal the Declaration of Independence and find a hidden treasure? That's also an important one. You got to know where, like, what the journey is before you can write your character. Hello. Now, let's say hypothetically we're writing an adventure story. That my hand hit the keyboard. I'm sorry. Let's say you're writing an adventure story. Your main protagonist is obviously going to go on a grand adventure, like, say, Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is a high fantasy adventure, pretty much. But we know what Frodo is going to do. He's going on an adventure to destroy a ring. So what is your main character? Why is he something to call adventure? And I guess to figure out that, we have to figure out what kind of person your main character is. Is he a humble farmer who's going on to call it adventure to save his home? Is he a young soldier who was sent to the front lines and rose to greatness? Is he essentially a boy? Thanks, War 2. He's essentially a boy who grew up on stories of heroism and decided to go out into the world to become a hero. You have to know motivation. This is all for adventure right now. But, so, what motivates them? what kind of personality do they have? Are they naive? Uh, are they cynical, jaded? Are they wide-eyed idealist? Are they a pacifist? Like, even in adventures, like, heroes can choose not to fight and try and talk their way through everything, which I've read stories like that. It's an interesting take, and it can easily work if you know what you're doing. Or you can fumble your way forward and try and work your way there. That also works. Hey Tay. I'm going all right. I'm talking about character writing right now. If you are interested in that. So I really should find a better playlist. Maybe I should steal Alice's playlist sometime. But I'm talking about writing a main protagonist right now. So we're writing an adventure. You have, you can combine it with a coming of age story, and you can have a child, essentially. Not a child, a boy, a young man who doesn't know anything about the world. And they're going out on some grand adventure to try and either discover themselves or solve a big problem. Let's say, hypothetically, they started off trying to figure out their place in the world. So you have a child, a boy, young man, whatever, probably just after puberty or whatever. Someone who thinks they know the world and thinks they need to go find their place in it. So we have their motivation. But now you have to figure out their wants. Like, what do they want out of their adventure? So they want to find their place in the world. They want to carve their name into the annals of history. They don't want to be forgotten or something like that. Or they want to be well known. Usually when someone goes on an adventure, that's what they want. They want to become a name or something. Unless they already have a goal. But this is a hypothetical situation right now. We have their want. Important to know what a character wants. But then you also need to know what a character needs. And at the very beginning, you don't have to know what they need right away. You just need to know what they want. You just need to know what they need towards the end. Sometimes they align with themselves. Like Frodo. Frodo's want is to get rid of the ring. That's also his need because the ring has plagued the family for a long time and they need to destroy it. Actually, no. His need is to destroy the ring. His want is to keep the ring and have its power because it is a cursed artifact. If I'm all over the place, I'm sorry. This is kind of how my brain works. A want and a need will usually differ. It'll always end up with the same goal if you're writing a good character, which is a character resolution that you want. Like your character, if your character is static throughout the entire story, then it's not a good character because that means you could take them and put them in any world and the character would not change. Like if I put Luke Skywalker in Lord of the Rings, it would be a different character entirely because of how he would react to the world more than anything else. Conversely, putting Frodo in Luke Skywalker's place, their personalities are different. Believe it or not, I find Frodo to be more on the shy side kind of thing. That'd be a wild crossover, yeah. Magic and the Force. I'm not a wizard. Scholar, mage, but not a wizard. There is a difference. Hydration. You also should think of an arc that your character is going to go through, which is another important thing, which is a path of growth, essentially. where they will change over this arc. But we're getting ahead of ourselves because we have their motivation, we have their want, we have their need. Now you need to know like their personality, essentially. We know what drives them, which is their want to get their name in the world. But are they a cynical, are they cynical? Are they down to earth? Are they a head in clouds kind of person? Do they try and see the good in everybody? Or is it if you attack me, I will eliminate you so you are no longer a problem kind of person? Frodo runs. That's his whole thing. Honestly. Yeah, I love making D&D characters. Let me, this is something I'm going to pull up real quick because I feel like I need some kind of ground to talk about what authority I have on writing. I used to do a writing class. It's been a while since I taught, though, so as you can tell, I am very out of practice. 13 pages of backstory? Wow. When it comes to D&D, you don't want a super long backstory because the D&D is where your story is. But let me just show this off real quick. Ignoring this one. This one, because this was just the C class options. These are all characters I've written that have backstories. Not always written on this website. I forgot your name. And I forgot to put your. But when it comes down to it, we have, let's see, 3 by 4, 12, 13 characters. I have 13 different characters, each with their own backstory, their own personality, their own arc. Like Lord Renaud. Let's look at Lord Renaud. I didn't write a lot of backstory for Lord Renaud. As you can see, he is a Dragonborn. But if we go to description, notes. We have a good paragraph of what my character is boiled down. Like I said, I can distill my characters down to like a paragraph. You want to be able to do it in like a sentence, but I can do it pretty decently in a paragraph. Lord Renaud is actually a dragon, is the thing. By the name of Rhesa Tovin. God King of the Sands. I'm doing big air quotes here. God King of the Sands. I can do it with my wings. It's basically a bronze dragon that got too big for his britches, essentially, and thought he was above Bahamut. So Bahamut, to teach him humility, ripped his soul from his dragon body and put it in a dragonborn, and said, "You can have your body back once you learn humility." And his backstory is written from his perspective because he is so egotistical that he won't even have a narrator for his own backstory. He is the narrator. He's one of my favorite characters I wrote. Another one is another Dragonborn, Edcras Emmerscale. His written in the third person. Edcras was a pirate working on a ship known as the Ocean's Bounty who attacked merchant vessels that carried illegal cargo that they could then sell. Edcras realized that he was getting the short end of the stick because, he's dumb, air quotes, and realized he was getting less of a cut, so he confronted the captain. The captain and the crew beat him mostly to death and threw him into the ocean. He washed up on shore, basically dead, and swore vengeance. So his character motivation is to get revenge. He's a pirate, so has dubious morals. And he is driven. He has a single-minded goal in destroying the person who nearly killed him. And not just killing the captain, the crew, and destroying the ship. Nothing remains. Salted Earth. That's his life goal. And that's what he wants. Now, as the writer of this character, I know his want is revenge, but that's not what he needs. He needs a reason to live. Because as soon as his vengeance is over, he has a hollow life ahead of him. There's nothing left. So that's the kind of thing you have to think about when writing a character. What is their want and what do they need? My want, I want to destroy the person who nearly killed me. My need, I need a reason to live. Spite is not a good reason to live. I don't know if you're aware of this. Going back to talking about personalities, and we can use Ed Crass as an example. Or actually, no, let's use Lord Renauld as an example. Lord Renauld wants his body back. His original body. That's his want. His need is he needs to grow as a person. He needs humility. He needs humbleness. And he needs to lose like a metric ton of ego. But what kind of personality is? How would he react with the world around him? Well, he would think he's superior. He would already think that he is above everyone else. He thought he was above his own god, which is what got him here. So, you would have to portray that. And his character arc would be him gradually lowering himself from that high bar he set himself. Now, granted, character development is not linear. It's an oozing thing. It's alive. Your character will grow as a person based on the situations he finds himself in. So it's not always going to be, oh, you know, he needs to learn humility so everything will line up with, oh, he will humble himself. Because he's going to fight it tooth and claw at the start. Guaranteed. There is no way he would lower himself. Like, if he needs help, he won't ask for it. If he needs to buy stuff, he will spend like it's going out of style. If there's a conversation, he needs to be the center of it because his ego is so massive that their world cannot exist without him. And there's no linear way to reduce that. Oh, I lost my train of thought. That is fair. But when it comes to D&D, you want to leave yourself open. Right? Like, again, go back to my characters. Lord Renauld. I skimmed most of his backstory. You don't get a lot of it in a paragraph. You get that he was a dragon by the name of Rhys Atovan. He called himself the God King of the Sands and ruler of the desert. Then, after many centuries, Bahamut came down and said, you are getting too full of yourself. Tone it down, or there will be consequences. And then there were consequences because he did not tone it down. And that's fair. I just also want to say, as a DM, it's hard for me to go through 13 pages of backstory. And I feel bad when I can't, But at the same time, 13 pages is a lot of pages to get to where you are. God, he has intimidation. I forgot about that. Like, look, that's good. Now, I didn't write the backstory down for C, right? Passion is a good thing. Like, you'll find here, I have nothing. There's nothing here for his backstory. C is level 10. This is a character I've written over many years. C is one of my favorites. He is a human, and that's pretty much all he knows about himself. He calls himself C, because that is literally the only thing he had on his person. You gotta be careful with what you say to a fae. If a fae asks you, "May I have your name?" you do not say yes. That's a dangerous thing to ask. A small thing to give. May I have your name? Oh, hi, Seismic. You did what? I know we got onto D&D talk, but I think D&D character writing would also be useful. Right. We can go back to story writing in a moment. Ah, very, very dangerous. C was a noble who yeah, it was an in-character thing. C was a noble who, when encountering a strangely beautiful creature, person, the person that asked, "May I have your name?" the person asked, "May I have your story?" And that gave everything to him. His past and his present, all to the fae. He woke up with no memory of who he was, and a scrap of clothing that had the letter C written on it. Well, not written, sewn into it. And there is now a fae wearing his face in the noble court. But he can't remember what court. What? I don't know what you're talking about. We're talking about character creation, and we're talking about D&D right now. Troll. I don't know. We're talking about character creation right now. I do a lot of writing, so I like to talk about writing. Right now, wow, I have 13 characters right there. I could have just looked up here instead of counting. Oh my God. Oh, I'm in too many campaigns. So, when it comes to writing your character, you want to know the story, you want to know the setting, you want to know how your character will behave, and you probably want to figure out the end goal as soon as possible. Oh God, my brain went completely blank as soon as I started talking about that. And that's for your main character. What kind of traits do they have? Are they brave? Are they humble? Are they courageous? Which is the same as brave, but a different word. Are they intelligent? That's another smart question right there. You do not want to ask if they're pregnant. Although that would be an important question. But typically you wouldn't start that way in a story. At least I have not seen an adventure story going off like that. And another important question to ask for your main character is, will they achieve their goal? Because I've read stories where the protagonist doesn't win. They don't lose, but they don't win. It becomes a neutral state. Which has led to interesting stories before. How do they respond to failure? Mood. But will they lash out, get angry? Will they become despondent and depressed? What? How does your character react to failure? Or are they in a constant state of panic? Because I'm remembering in the Wheel of Time at the start, Randall Thor, the main character, the protagonist, and eventual messiah of the series, it's practically spending his entire internal monologue screaming. Which I find hilarious. Him and his friends. And that's another thing we're going to talk about writing. Protagonists and side characters. No, not protagonists, antagonists and side characters. So, your antagonist. Why are they an antagonist? What do they hope to achieve that sets them as the villain of the story? Not necessarily the villain, just the opposing goal in all of this. What set Darth Vader as the antagonist? That's that's one hell of a bow. But like, what set Darth Vader as the antagonist? Mostly, it was his job. That's why he's the villain. He works for the Empire, and his job is to get rid of the rebels. It's not like a personal vendetta. He's not out to kill for the sake of killing. He's not here to wipe them out just because they exist. You're evil. But when it comes down to it, that's his job. They fight the rebels because the rebels are the opposing force to their society. Nice. I've done that fake out before. Another antagonist is, let's go back to Wheel of Time. The Dark One is the main antagonist of the series. That's evil. The Dark One is the antagonist because he wants to rip apart creation. And that's not just the job, that's just his goal, is to rip apart creation. Supposedly to reform it in his own image, but he can't do that. He's not a creator, he's a destroyer. So, in our hypothetical coming-of-age story, adventure, who would be the antagonist to a boy trying to carve himself out into the world? It would probably be someone higher in society, trying to either change the world to make it so he can't fit, or force him into a role in the world that he can't be in. That kind of thing. Like someone, like a king who's trying to force him to be like a knight in his military or something like that. Or the king of a neighboring kingdom who is destroying his home. Thanks, I do need to drink the liquor. And what makes your antagonist a foil? Because a good antagonist is a foil to your protagonist. Robin! What makes them a good antagonist? If you can take your antagonist out of the story and put any other antagonist in his place and still have the same story, he is not the right protagonist for your story. If I could remove Joker from Batman and put in Darth Vader and get the same story, then you need to rework your characters. Good hair, big hair. This is not anime. But we're talking about the antagonist right now. A trope that keeps getting brought up is two sides of the same coin. And we can use the Batman example for this as well. Two sides of the same coin. They have had similar situations, but with two different outcomes. Batman and the Joker have been screwed over by society. They lost something dear to them. One of them, and they both snapped. I don't care what anyone says. Batman, Bruce Wayne, has snapped. He's not fully in his own head. Because no man in their right mind would dress in tights to beat up people. But where one is trying to enforce order in a society that doesn't have it, Batman. One is trying to generate chaos to bring society crumbling down. Both of them want to change society. Both of them want to change society because they've been screwed by society, but they want to do it in two radically different ways. But they're still part of the same coin. If one detail had been different in either of their stories, they could have been on the other side of the coin. If Bruce Wayne did not have such a drive to fix society when his parents were killed and want justice for the people like him who didn't get justice, he could have turned out exactly like the Joker. Where if society is already chaos, why not add a little fuel to the fire? And same with the Joker. Society beat him down and told him he was pretty much worthless. And he snapped. He lost his mind and that's when he decided to add fuel to the fire. But maybe he could have decided that he wanted to impose order instead. For the downtrodden, like himself, the people who suffer in the dredges of society. And we could have had the Clown Prince of Crime fighting instead of the Clown Prince of Crime. I know it's weird to think about, but that's just one of the ways to go about it. So, a good antagonist could be the protagonist in another story. And another way is, your protagonist could have been the antagonist, if not for one detail, kind of thing. The antagonist doesn't necessarily have to be a big bad overall. Like, I know I said the antagonist for the Wheel of Time was the Dark One, but there's also minor antagonists that work for him, agents of his. And they all make good foils because they're just like Rand. They're essentially magic users. But they wanted a different result. They wanted to use their magic and have a world for themselves, where Rand wants to save the world. You also want to think about what drives your antagonist. Why do they do what they do? Again, we use the Joker. The Joker, because he snapped, decided society wasn't working for him, so he's going to get rid of it. And have as much fun as he can along the way. That's what drives him. What drives Sauron in Lord of the Rings. Well, he wants his ring back because the ring will give him ultimate power. That's his drive. Once he gets his ring back, he could probably get his body back. Again, we talked about what drives Darth Vader. Darth Vader is driven by essentially duty at this point. The Empire is all he's known. He sacrificed so much for it. So that is your main character points there. Now, side characters are an interesting thing. Because a lot of people don't think about side characters for whatever reason. Some of my favorite characters have been side characters that have become protagonists of their own story, essentially. What makes a good side character is, what do they add to the story? Again, it's another thing of, if you can remove this character and nothing changes, then they're not needed, don't put them in. But, like, Han Solo is a side character at first. So what did he add to the story of Star Wars that Luke did not have? Well, he was a cynic. He had a different outlook in the world because he was a smuggler. And so Luke, being a wide-eyed idealist, essentially, wanting to go join the rebels and fight the Empire, needed to be brought back down to Earth, or whatever planet they happen to be on. So you have this cynic there, who is more or less... Hello? Hello? I disappeared. Hello? There I am. Sorry about that. Donovan has been summoned. But you could not I can't say that to Mira. I don't have a wireless headset. I can't go into a room and say that. So please refund that. I don't have the power. She's streaming right now. I'm not going to interrupt her stream to go say that to her where none of you can hear it. I'm not. Her door's shut because we are both streaming at the same time. You would have no proof. I could just tell you I did it. It's a pointless endeavor. You know? I would normally say, yeah, I know I'm honest, but what satisfaction do you get if you don't hear me say it? It boggles my mind. To be perfectly honest, I don't know. Anyways, back to what I was doing. Side characters. If you remove Han Solo, the story changes a lot. He is an integral part through the story because, again, he is the cynic to Twat, please pamper me with witches and quaddles. But you can't take Han Solo out of the story because then Luke doesn't grow as he should, because Luke grows more down to earth and loses quite a bit of his idealism. But at the same time, Han changes. Han changes because he gets more ideological about things. He starts to see the world as a place of beauty kind of thing. Not really so much beauty, but more than everyone's going to stab me in the back, so I better stab them in the back. So when thinking about writing a side character, you have to ask yourself, what do they add? And can I remove them and the story still remain unchanged. If you answer yes to that second question, get rid of it. Get rid of the character. You don't have to ask him that at all, too. Like, now, if we're playing D&D, there are no side characters, and this is important to remind yourself. You are not the protagonist. You are not the main character. You are part of a group of main characters, but you are not the main character. This is something to remind yourself constantly, because if you ever think the story is all about you, then you are going to start draining the fun away from everyone else that is currently playing. And that's not good. I played with a me demon, essentially. If you're at that point, War 2, it's a TPK because you cannot win by yourself. I played with what is essentially a me demon, all about me. No matter what character he played, he had the mindset of a Oath of Vengeance paladin. That was always right. If we're not doing things his way, it's not important. If he's not in a scene, he says we should skip, even if it's plot relevant to someone else's backstory. And in general, he thought himself the leader, but whenever we got to talking situations, his first instinct was to stab them. Yeah, me demons are not great. Because, again, they drain the fun away from the rest of the party because they want to be the main character and have everyone else as side characters. And I want to make this little writing talk about a little bit more than main, like, writing. Like I said, D&D characters are important. I hope my tips right now are being useful, and I hope they actually are coming off as tips and not just insane rambling. Again, I'm going to write a script for my next one. Oh, Jesus. Not only was he a medium, and he was a PvP. I might do this as a podcast. I am insane. Next time I do this, I'm going to try as a podcast format. So I'm going to write a script, and I'm going to have someone read my script. I've never written a script before. We're winding down to the hour mark, and there's not a lot to say about your side characters because they don't need to be as fleshed out as your protagonist and your antagonist. You don't have to have their wants and needs. You just have to have basically their personality. Well, you do need their want. You don't need their need. You need to have their personality. You need to have their want, and you need to have what do they add to the story. Merry and Pippin from The Lord of the Rings are side characters. Ew. That's not a good party, Seismic. It's been a while since I played D&D, and when I was a DM, because I'm the eternal DM, I made sure that everyone felt important if I could. So you made him the main enemy? Talk with him. This is as a DM. If you are not having fun, then you need to talk with your DM. Explain your grievances and see if you can come across a resolution. If you can't, then you might need to find a new group, unfortunately. Because if you're going but not having fun, nice word too. But when I DM, after the session, after a session, I make sure everyone is still there and we talk about the session. Did everyone have fun? What was something they liked? What was something that I can improve on? Every session, we do this. Yes, talking. This suddenly became D&D talk, but that's okay. I'm about to put a pause on this stream and switch to a game stream if everyone's okay with that. And I'm going to edit this on my own sometime. Maybe do a podcast format and use this as a baseline. But yeah, Seismic? I'm curious. That's stupid. I'm sorry, but that's stupid. It was random. They have no right to be angry at you for that. That bothers me. Oh, that sucks. Good job, Bobbin. But I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now. I was really rushed to do this one because I had to take 2 weeks off from streaming and even thinking about streaming due to it. We're not going to get into it, just personal reasons. So I'm not as prepared for this one as I will be for the next one, which what would you like to see me talk about when it comes to writing? What topic do you want me to go on? That doesn't work. Doesn't work at all. Items and artifacts, things of power, MacGuffins, essentially. Because I'm going to be talking about more than just D&D. Yes, okay. We can talk about how artifacts would shape the world and items of power and MacGuffins and things. Booty, of course. But if you give me a quick second, I'm going to stop the stream and I'll be... Yeah, the Frodo ring and things like that. The rings of power. Excalibur, if you want to go with Arthurian legend. Or Avalon. It's not hard to turn a fantasy world. It is more of how to make the rules of fantasy and how to make them obey. That's the important question. But yes, we'll be talking about things of power, essentially. It was actually a good topic. So we're going to be talking about items of power, how they shape the world, and how to make a good one. But I'm going to stop the stream for a quick second, and I'm going to flicker back on in like a minute, and then we're going to play a video game. Of course, you want an excuse to say booty. So give me 1 second or 1 minute. It's probably not going to be a full minute, but I'm going to stop the stream and restart it so that I can have a second VOD. So we're going to stop the music and then be right back.